Okay, let's dive right into a massive thought experiment. What if, one morning, every single living creature on Earth, from the smallest ant to the largest whale, woke up with the same kind of self-awareness that we have? It's a scenario that doesn't just bend the rules, it shatters them. It forces us to rethink absolutely everything. So let's explore this.
So, yeah, what if it actually happened? I mean, really picture it. Every insect, every fish, every bird, every mammal, suddenly they're not just alive, they're aware. They're thinking, feeling individuals. What would that new world even look like?
All right, so first things first, let's get on the same page about what we mean by sentience. We're not just talking about basic instincts here. We're talking about the ability to have a subjective experience, to actually feel pain, joy, fear, maybe even love. It's the universe suddenly becoming aware of itself through every single living being.
And here's the thing. Science is already telling us that consciousness isn't some simple on-off switch. It's more like a spectrum, a dimmer switch. We already see hints of this, right? We see it in primates who show empathy, in elephants that seem to mourn their dead, and even in dolphins that call each other by what are basically names. So the seeds of this great awakening might already be out there.
So if that switch was flipped for everyone, all at once, well, the first thing to go would be human society as we know it. Our entire moral foundation, our industrial civilization, it would all just dissolve, almost instantly.
And this chart. Wow, this really puts it into perspective. Our whole relationship of the animal kingdom would be completely reframed. Your pet dog? No longer just a pet, but a thinking, feeling family member. Okay, but livestock? Suddenly, they're not a food source, they're an enslaved population. Pests aren't just an annoyance, they're invading nations. And animal testing? Well, that would go down in history as a systemic atrocity of unimaginable scale.
Of course, that moral crisis would trigger an economic one. I mean, think of all the global industries built on the idea that animals aren't like us. They would become morally impossible overnight. Slaughterhouses would go silent. Research labs would face a massive reckoning. Zoos, industrial fishing, the very pillars of our consumer world would just crumble. And then you get to the complete legal and political chaos. Our entire system of law is built around human rights, human personhood. But what happens when a shark can reason, when a forest can feel? Who speaks for the ant colonies in court? Seriously, what rights does a mosquito have? Our laws would be rendered totally meaningless.
But here's the kicker. This wouldn't just be a human problem, not even close. This great awakening would ripple out beyond our society and shatter the fundamental rules of the entire biosphere. The laws of nature itself would be broken.
You know, the heart of nature is the food web. Predation. It's the engine of evolution, and it would just seize up. Can you imagine a lion suddenly aware of the terror it's causing, hesitating before the kill? Or a gazelle, now fully understanding mortality, pleading for its life? The entire system would grind to a halt under the crushing weight of conscience.
Just try to wrap your head around the scale of that. Billions upon billions of new minds waking up all at once. It wouldn't create some beautiful harmony. It would unleash a planetary wave of pure suffering. The oceans would be vibrating with the existential dread of fish. The sky would be filled with the anxieties of birds. Just unimaginable. And this chart kind of gives us a glimpse into that new reality. The planet's emotional state, once just driven by instinct, would be completely overwhelmed by these new, complex feelings. The dominant emotions would be things like dread, anxiety, and vulnerability. A collective trauma on a scale we can't even fathom.
Okay, so, after the chaos, after the initial shockwave of suffering, what happens next? Does this new world stay broken, or does it find a new path? Well, it seems like two very different futures could emerge from the rubble.
On one hand, you have the dream of unity. Maybe cooperation could replace competition. Species form councils. Ecosystems negotiate treaties. The entire planet could evolve into this single vast interconnected consciousness. You know, the Gaia hypothesis made real. But there's a much darker path. Consciousness also brings politics, ambition. Intelligence could just become the new weapon, replacing tooth and claw, leading to wars fought not over territory, but over philosophy.
But even amidst all that potential chaos, there would be moments of just profound, incredible wonder. For the first time, humanity wouldn't be alone in the universe, intellectually. Imagine having a conversation with a whale and learning the history of the oceans, or sharing dreams with a wolf, hearing entire symphonies of logic in birdsong.
It would expand our art, our science, our understanding of life itself in ways we can't even begin to imagine.
And that sense of wonder actually brings us to the final and maybe the most crucial part of this whole idea. What if? What if we've been looking at this question from completely the wrong angle? What if the real shift isn't something that happens out there in the world, but in here, inside us? Because maybe, just maybe, this great awakening we've been imagining
Isn't going to come from the animals at all.
Maybe the awakening has to come from us.
In this quote right here, this is where the whole thought experiment flips on its head. It suggests the monumental change we need isn't some biological miracle in other species, but a perceptual revolution within our own. It's about our readiness to finally see and acknowledge the consciousness that's already all around us.
Think about what that really means. If that day comes, the world itself doesn't actually change one bit. The animals, the forests, the oceans, they'll be exactly what they've always been. The only thing that will have changed is us. Our ability to finally, truly listen.
And that's really the question this whole thing leaves us with. It's not about some distant sci-fi future. It's about right now. The intelligence is already here. The consciousness is all around us. The forest is thinking. The oceans are dreaming. The real question is, are we ready to listen?